Now, away from the Middle East to the U.S., where during the first round of voting, Rep. Jim Jordan did not have enough votes to become Speaker of the House. Half a dozen Republicans voted for the former Speaker, Rep. Kevin McCarthy, and another 7 voted for the previous candidate, Rep. Scalise. Mr. Scalise dropped out of the race just 5 days ago after being unable to unite the party to support him. For their parts, both Mr. McCarthy and Mr. Scalise voted for Mr. Jordan. Mr. Jordan needed 217 votes to win the gavel, which means he can only afford to lose the support of 4 fellow Republicans. At the end of the votes, the tally was 212 votes for House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, 200 votes for Jordan, and 20 votes for other Republican candidates. Democrats unanimously voted for Jeffries.
Having received a majority of the whole number of votes cast by surname, the Speaker has not been elected. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the Chair declares the House in recess subject to the call of the Chair.
Well, joining us to discuss this from Texas in the United States is a Republican, Ejike Okpa. Thank you for joining us on World Now. Well, as a Republican, how do you react to the travails now of Jim Jordan? Is he likely to face same fate as Mr. McCarthy, who won a majority only after 15 rounds of votes?
Thank you for having me. I want to preface my comment by saying, politics is like making of a sausage. If you see what goes into it, you hardly don't want to eat the sausage. But then after the fact, everybody wants the sausage. So, what is going on, it's shocking to me, but it's not unusual. There's always, a tussle for power. This is when you see members, begin to show up and want to make a name for themselves because they too want to cut a deal. So, I think at the end of the day, the Republican is going to be Speaker, and then we're going to move on. How long that's going to last, we don't know. I was sort of disappointed, when Congressman Gates, made the move, but then it was an agreement that was made that if a member can call for the Speaker to vacate, and he was able to do it. And I think the Democrats are having a field day seeing how, dysfunctional the House members of the Republican side are. But, again, this will come to pass, and then we'll see what else happens.
And, with the prevailing circumstance now, the House, we can say, is practically under paralysis, and it's unable to consider legislations. And this is probably worse, considering that there might just be a government shutdown in about a month. What is the implication of this?
Well, it's never a government shutdown. We get into this tension. And then, when the deadline comes close, we always somehow, there's a magic wand we do and we keep going. Again, that's just the nature of the American politics. They don't shoot each other. They used to do that way back in the late 1800s. But now, it's just a war of words and this vote thing. I mean, one member can hold the entire committee or the entire House or Senate to ransom. You see what's going on with the Senate. A senator from Alabama is holding the Senate, to ransom because there are certain things he doesn't want, and then because of the thin level of votes on both sides. So few votes is very critical. This is where a minority group can influence the majority. Because at the end of the day, when you count the votes, you want to count everybody on your side. So if a few hold back, then you're in trouble. So the government is not going to shut down. I think they're going to either pass a resolution to have interim Speaker McHenry, because of what is going on, to have some authority to do some things. But I think before 30 days or so, if by this week, we're likely to have the Speaker who will hold the gavel and do the business of the people.
As it is, obviously, Mr. Jordan himself is facing some level of opposition from the Republican Party. You have the centrist Republicans who are just concerned about having a hardline conservative Republican, wielding the gavel. But, these internal wranglings and, of course, the opposition coming from Democrats on another hand, how do you see it all pan out? It's just a year before the elections.
Again, the Democrats, they are more like, a sheep and a shepherd. You wouldn't see stuff like this with the Democrats because, Democrats are more on the top heavy leadership. When the top people said this was going to be, everybody falls in line. I think this is the measure of democracy in action when you see the Republicans, having this sort of disagreement, but at the same time, they will come to consensus because they want certain things done. So it's not disruptive. It's just another thing, like I said earlier, this is the making of a sausage. You see all kinds of things that go into making of a sausage. You wouldn't want to eat it. But once it's done, it looks good. So the thing is, the Republicans have always been this type of group of members. They're very assertive, they are very independent-minded, they don't follow orders like the Democrats do. But at the end of the day, they know what is at stake, and they're going to rally around and make sure that they have the person they want. Jordan has been getting the resistance opposition, but again, they're going to rally. Those things is cutting off a deal. You talk to the members. What do you want? What's going on? What is this? What is that?
All right.
And some of them are persuasive, and then some of them just, at the end of the day, they're going to rally for their speaker because a Democrat is not going to be a speaker.
All right, we'll see how it all pans out in the days ahead. Ejikekwa joined us from Dallas in Texas. Thank you for talking to us on World Now.
Well, thank you for having me.